The question I have is, I mean, we can actually think that, yeah, I want to constantly innovate. What should be the kinds of thought processes I have to bear in mind while I start jumping? I don't want to jump on the wrong thing, right? How do you pick the right opportunity? And then how do you think about, I mean, changing directions or changing courses or picking the right kind of a problem or a challenge to deal with?
Very good question. Actually, we are not talking about jumping the right side, right or the wrong thing. We are only talking about jumping from the way we do, the way we should do. For example, whatever you are doing today, take for example, manufacturing process course you take. I want to move from teaching it like everybody teaches it, more and more of it. That will be moving to the right-hand side. I want to teach it differently in a way to have a greater impact. Create it in a way that adds more value to me, to my students. That will be moving to the left, to creating new solutions. You are doing your own research R&D project today. Every one of you, ask what is the technical output you are trying to do. If a student says, I want to write a thesis, everybody writes a thesis. What's so great about you? So what is it you want to do at the thesis, technical output? Then who cares about it? What is the value out of this? And that very question of what is it you want and why you want that begins to make you think about the science behind your project much more deeply than otherwise. That begins to make you think deeply about what are the various input groups. If you're trying to do a certain experiment without a certain equipment that is needed to carry out that equipment science, you're not going to make much progress. You can do whatever you want. Or if your operating conditions are using that equipment is outside of the ballpark that's needed, you're not going to get the kind of output that you're looking for. The data is going to be just what you generated without making any sense for your output that you're looking for. Or the sample specimen that you want to use for is just because I got this sample, I got this machine, I got these parameters, I generated this data. Who cares? So you see, it is not a question of jumping into something by mistake. It is doing whatever we are doing today, rearranging it and reconfiguring it in a way, making very clear what is it I want to do and why I want to do it. So it's more a question of self-awareness and discipline rather than simply being afraid of taking on something new. Don't do anything new. As a result of this seminar, don't start any new project. Take the project you already have. Take the work you already have. Take the assignment you already have. Redefine it. That is awareness. Then improve on the science, engineering, and management behind that project. That will be analysis. That will lead you to synthesis a new solution. Maybe it sounds a little abstract, but only it's almost like telling you can be an Olympic champion. That sounds very abstract. But if I tell you, you to practice like this way every day, at least you'll become a state champion. Then you'll become a regional champion, and then the national champion, and then you'll be an Olympic champion.
Many times we find that when we ask PhD students, why are you doing whatever PhD? The answer is because my advisor told me. In fact, that is always the bane. I mean, whenever I'm in a PhD defense, I'm always asking why. And what students want to do is talk about how.
Yes.
That is the point that you are making. That is, they're task-oriented, they're not value-oriented.
Exactly.
Right? So what happens is that most of the time they want to talk about, because they have spent a lot of time with how, because the task is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking, okay, I slaved for 3 years and trying to figure out how to process the signal, and then one day I got it, and then finally, and you don't want me to talk about that at all.
Exactly.
So that's one thing. On a bigger picture, and this is where I wanted to ask.
But let me just add a little bit to what you just said. See, that's why when we give a PhD, it is supposed to be Doctor of Philosophy.
Yeah.
And the reason we call it Doctor of Philosophy is because we expect the student to be philosophic in their mindset.
Yes, judgment.
And not simply coming and telling how I did what I did, but why I did it, and what is the meaning behind that.
On a bigger picture, I had an item that, this is to do with your earlier discussion about how industry has changed into different, I would say, fairly airtight layers.
Right.
The challenge is, that we always talk about the fact that where the money is and where people are in this, always in this innovation. But there are 6 billion people on this planet, and not all of them are going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen, and which we are seeing happening, is that there is revolution in various ways. Even the January 6th, forget about the details, but the underlying cause is anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we as engineers are actually not paying attention to that. That's also part of the issue, because what we want to do, and I've heard this from everybody, is to say, whatever I am doing, I want to automate.
Mm-hmm.
And you're wondering, okay, then what's going to happen to people?
Mm-hmm.
So what will they do if they have nothing to do? If they have nothing to lose, they will burn everything down.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, what do you do with the people whose skills are on the bottom? That is, they can make things, but they're not necessarily innovative thinkers. And that is fine too, but there has to be a way, there has to be a place for them also in this world. Otherwise, the one thing that they know how to do is burn everything down, because they don't care anymore. They're not invested anymore.
I think you have asked a very, very good question and a very relevant question. But see, in fact, I can give you a very, I think, reasonable answer to that. And that is, first of all, we have to acknowledge that the world is becoming bimodal. What I call as a binary economy in my book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to do with this system thinking and transformational skills is to move as much people as we can into the have side of the equation and not fall into the have-not side of the equation. That is, first we have to try to do, because that is required. Because if you're not on the if you're not on the shores, you cannot pull someone else in the water out onto the shores. So, and most of us are in the water trying to be pushed by the stream. So we have to find a way to get to the shore, which is what this seminar was. Now, having said that, I wrote an editorial recently, which I'll be happy to send it to all of you.
Yes, please.
Which says, this is an Indian magazine, but it doesn't matter, it applies to everywhere. And that is, we have to create a way of thinking, a way of life. See, wealth, economic well-being, social, psychological well-being, and then mental awareness and comfort. Those are three different aspects of human life.
Mm-hmm.
So what has happened is today, now we are going to subject completely outside of the mainstream of the theme. So many youngsters may not even care to listen to it, but it's affect them as much as anybody else. So on the economic side, to be competitive, you need system thinking and transformational skills. For the emotional side, you need to have all the social, relationship, friendship, all the things. But on the more intellectual harmony with the mind, you need to be a little bit more philosophic, which is where the traditional philosophies say that is, and education on that has to start. Education has to, so that, see, after you have a car and a house and things like that, you don't need to have 2 cars and 2 houses and things like that. So you must develop a mental framework. So that's called maintaining equilibrium in activities and life.
Yes, sir.
Recently, I did a 20-week course on philosophy to a group of students in IIT Madras and engineers around them on this subject, because I wanted them to learn that yes, some of your top students will always go abroad. That is the way things are. You can't do anything about that. But if you can create a climate and culture such that the rest of the students who are there feel a sense of belonging, then they will do a very good job for you, irrespective of how many leaves your institute.